Hello, welcome to episode 182 of the Craft House Magic podcast. My name's Ellie and I'm coming to you from Norwich in Norfolk in the UK, and today is the 16th of September. So welcome everybody. I hope you've all had a lovely crafty week since the last time I've spoken to you, and I'm here to share all the crafty things that I've been doing in the last 7 days. So today I have some knitting, some sewing, a gadget, a question from the Ask Me Anything thread on the Ravelry group, and some confessions. Quite a few confessions today. Oh dear. So you can skip along to any of the sections using the progress bar. There's little timestamps that show each of the sections. We have a Makalong going on in the Ravelry group, and I'll leave details of that in the description bar down below. And you can also use the hashtag on Instagram, and that's craft20 a day. But I won't go into it again because I say about it every week and it's going on for the whole year. So let's get on with the good stuff, shall we? So I've been working on splitting some sock tubes into some socks again, and I've finished a second pair. So last week I'd done those, and this week I split the rest of the tube into another pair, and I'd used the cuffs in the main yarn for this pair and did green toes and heels, but this time I've done a green cuff and red toes and heels instead. So there we are. I really like that red with it actually, even though it's not quite the same red as in the candy cane yarn. I just like how it sort of lifts the brightness of the red a little bit. So this is the West Yorkshire Spinners candy cane yarn that was the Christmas sock yarn a couple of years ago, and I did find a link actually on the West Yorkshire Spinners website. They've got all the Christmas yarn colourways listed on there, so you'll probably be able to purchase those as long as they don't go out of stock, but this was the candy cane. I had some of my mini left over from my advent, and this was a Ducky Darlings mini skein from the advent that I purchased from her last year, and I'm not sure what this green is. It was just some yarn in my stash and I thought that went really nicely. So that is 2 pairs from a sock tube. So I do have a tutorial where I show you how I split a sock tube, which is basically a big tube with cuffs either end, and then I basically cut it into 2 pairs of socks, or 4 socks. And I'll leave links to that in the description bar down below. But I'm really pleased that I've split those and they're all ready to wear for Christmas now. And I should say, before I get into trouble from my mum, that my mum knitted the sock tube and I split it and added the heels and toes. So thanks mum for knitting me that tube. And I have one more tube that my mum knitted last year that I need to split. But I'm thinking maybe I'll make them into one really long pair of socks for Adam, because he does like to have a couple of pairs of really long socks for when it's really cold. So the second thing I have to show you is also socks. And these socks are knitted by Adam's mum Liz. And these are basically just using my simple top-down sock, which is a free sock pattern both on my website and on Ravelry, and she's used 64 stitches on 2.5mm needles, and these are actually for Adam's dad to wear because she's been knitting all these things, and I said it's a shame that you haven't knitted some more socks for Dave. So these are for Dave, Adam's dad, so he'll have nice cozy feet this winter. And this is an opal yarn, so this is the yarn that she used. I'd had my stash for a couple of years, so I don't know whether I sell it anymore, but it's colourway number 9116. But I do like an opal yarn. It's a really nice texture and they do tend to last quite a long time. So the simple top down sock, you start at the top, do a long tail cast on, do some rib, knit how long you want your sock, and then do the slip stitch heel. There's a heel turn at the bottom, then you pick up stitches around the sock and then do some decreases to make it as narrow as you want it on the foot, and knit the foot length, and you've got a normal wedge toe decrease at the bottom as well. So Liz has knitted those to Dave's foot requirements. I must add though, if you've got a different size leg to your foot, don't be frightened to decrease to a different stitch count. If you've got a narrower foot compared to your leg, don't be frightened to use different stitch counts for the leg and the foot section. I do have a video where I talk about how to knit socks that fit and some tips to take into account when you are trying to get the perfect fit for a sock. So next I have a baby knit to show you, but I've sort of half finished this project, and this is some cute little mittens, and this is a really pretty pattern by Karen Wasson. I don't know if I've pronounced your name correctly, Karen. Please excuse me if I haven't. But I will leave links to Karen's patterns in the description bar down below. But she really kindly gifted me this pattern so that I could knit a pair for our son, who's due in the end of November. So I chose the smaller size. There's two sizes. I think it was the 0 to 3 months and 3 to 6 months, I think. Don't quote me on that, but I knitted the smallest size because I thought I'd knit some larger ones as well later. But it's got a really nice intarsia heart on the front, and then you've got a cuff that folds up. But you could leave this down if you didn't want it doubled over. But they are so sweet. And I just had some DK yarn in my stash to make these with, and I just used some undyed DK that I sell on my shop for the heart section. So the yarn I use for the main colour is this sort of dark tealy turquoise colour, and it's a Rowan pure wool DK that I had in my stash. I must have bought it to make something or had it left over from something, but I found it and I thought, oh, that would be perfect to make these little mittens with. So like I said, there is a larger size because these are absolutely tiny. But it's quite good because the rib on the cuff is quite nice and sort of tight, so hopefully they'll stay on, and there's quite a lot of space in this area for the little hands to go in. And I'm going to be knitting the larger size as well. And I've also got another one of Karen's patterns with a cute little bunny on, which I want to have a go at as well. But I thought that they'd be lovely to use in the winter for the little baby. So the last thing I wanted to mention in the knitting section is that I've been planning all year to be involved in the Stephen West October mystery knit along, which is a shawl, and this year it's called Shawlography. So I've got my yarn ready to actually knit, and I thought I'd show you the colours that I've chosen. And they're actually 5 of the colourways from my Fade to Grey minis set, because I sort of cheated. I saw the mini sets on sale and I thought, I'm just going to use the colourways I've already designed to go together and pick those for the mystery knit along. So they say that you wanted sort of a darker colour and then a medium sort of shade and then a lighter shade and then some other colours in between, and I thought that those 5 went together really well. I'm not dyeing yarn to order on my website at the moment, but I do have some of the Fade to Grey mini sets still in the shop if you're interested in those colours. But I'm not going to be putting up any yarn until January now, just because I'm getting a bit later in my pregnancy and it's quite hard on my back to do yarn dyeing, so I'm just leaving that till January now, but I will be back once the baby's born. But I love those together, and I've chosen my merino cashmere and nylon base because I just love how squishy it was. Last year it was the Slip Stravaganza shawl, and I did mine in MCN last year, and I just was so pleased with how it felt squishy at the end. I thought, wow, I'm going to do this year's in MCN as well, so there we go. So that's my choices for the Shawlography knit along in October. It starts October the 4th and it goes over for a month, so I'm hoping that I'll be able to get it finished before the baby's born. We shall see. So my next section is the sewing section. So Barbara, would you like to pop over and show us what you got on? Thank you very much, Barbara. So this is the Skye Dress by Tilly and the Buttons, and actually this is a relatively new pattern. It's designed as a sort of summery dress, but I thought it would be really good to wear a t-shirt underneath and leggings be handy for pregnancy as well, because there's quite a lot of room in this skirt without it being a specifically maternity dress, if that makes sense. So there's different options for the dress. There's a mini length, a midi length and a maxi length in the length of the skirt, and I actually cut out the mini length. On me, this goes to my knee. I thought that would be plenty long enough. I just tried the pattern piece against my body. I am 5'3" and it just comes just onto my knees, and I thought that that would be ideal really for what I was looking for, because I'm going to be wearing leggings underneath it as well. But I'd certainly make another one of these for the summer, perhaps when I'm not pregnant next year, like in a maxi length, which might be really nice. I chose a viscose material that I had in my stash, and I purchased this from Rainbow Fabrics a little while ago. And I thought that this would be ideal to put over some t-shirts in a sort of a little bit more of a wintry sort of viscose fabric compared to a lot of the florals that I've got in my wardrobe. So the straps are designed to be wide enough to go over your bra, and you can add this cute little tie on the shoulder. Now I've made these to be removable in case I feel that they're a bit too busy a bit later on, but I do think that they're quite cute. You can stitch them on, but they are made as a separate ribbon. These straps actually really covered my bra really well. Even if I tied the ties a little bit tighter, it covered my bra just in the right place. I'll give you a twirl in the lounge a little bit later once I've finished chatting about it. One thing I did change is the neckline and inside the arms were supposed to be finished with bias binding, and I decided because it was going to be a more wintry piece that I'd actually line this fully, this bodice section. And basically I joined the front and the back panels for both the inside and the outside layers. And then I joined the neckline all the way around for the outer and the lining fabrics, understitched all the way around so that the fabric turns nicely to the inside, so the lining stays on the inside. And then you do like a burrito method to sew the arms. So you haven't sewed the side seams yet, you mustn't do that until the next stage. So you basically put this strap inside this strap and sew it over, and then pull it all through again and do exactly the same to the other side. That was a really rubbish explanation, but I'll leave a link in the description bar down below to a video that might help you do the burrito method for lining a bodice. Once you've got these sleeves sewn closed, you can understitch as far as you can. You won't be able to go right over the top, and then join the side. So the bodice itself has got some little tucks and pleats at the front here to give a little bit more space for the bust, and I didn't make any modifications to those because I thought it's quite a roomy top anyway. It's not like a dart where it's specifically directed to your bust apex, for instance, so I just left those in the same place. And I did my normal grading where I use a size 6 for the tilly and the button sizes on the shoulders and on the neckline, and then I graded out to a size 9 for the side seams and for the rest of the garment, and I find that works. Normally if it's a garment that has like a bust dart or something, I use my block that I've created that fits me perfectly to make sure that I've got the darts in the right place. Rather than doing a full bust adjustment, I can just then mark where I need to move the dart to, which is handy. Let's give you a twirl. So it's got a similar neckline at the back, and then I've actually added some ties in the side seams here of the bodice. So I used the same pattern piece as for the ties at the top there, and I just sewed them in either side so that I could then pull it in at the back to give me a little bit of shaping, so that after I'm pregnant I can give myself a little bit of waist definition, because it is quite an oversized top, oversized dress. I'll just give you a bit of a closer look at this really cute dotty fabric, and like I said, I picked this up from Rainbow Fabrics. I may have some purchases from Rainbow Fabrics I'll show you later in the podcast, but there we go. So I will give you a twirl in the lounge now so you can see what it looks like on me. So here we go. I decided to actually try it on without a t-shirt underneath, because the one I was wearing, the neckline was a bit low. It looked better with something a bit higher up here, but a short sleeve t-shirt would also go nicely. So you can see that the length of it is to my knees, and this is actually the mini version, but I am 5'3", so this is nice to wear leggings underneath for me anyway. I forgot to say actually, it does have pockets, side seam pockets, and I think having the tie at the back just gives those a little bit of stability rather than having them sort of hanging loose. Really like that. It's quite a loose fitting dress, but actually I think I'm going to get quite a lot of wear out of this. You can see the ties, I think that gives it a nice bit of detail, and it's quite loose fitting around the bust as well, so you don't have to spend a lot of time getting it to fit really well. But there we go. Ta-da! And you can see that it's got plenty of room for my baby bump as well, which is growing steadily, and I think there's plenty of more room in there as well, so it'll be handy to use when I get bigger still. So we're now on my Gadget section, and I've linked it in to my sewing that I've been doing this week. So when I was sewing the Skye dress, the fabric that I was using was quite slippy because it's a viscose material, and you have to make sure that you stay stitch around the neckline and also the armholes as well for that particular pattern. And I used this interfacing tape. It's called Forming Tape Interfacing, and it's made by Prim. So this is what it looks like in the packet, and you get a little reel of the interfacing tape, and it's basically a thin strip of interfacing with a stitch line that's really stable running down it, which you can just iron onto the fabric to save you having to stay stitch around the neckline. Sometimes when you've got a really slippy bit of viscose, this is very handy. So I will recommend getting some of that for projects where you've got a very slippy viscose. I picked out the first batch I had from Guthrie and Garney, but I have bought it from other shops like So Essential as well, so I will pop links to those in the description bar down below so you can find some. And we're on to the Ask Me Anything section. So I've got a question from Elaine, and Elaine was asking, when I'm cutting out jersey tops in a stripy fabric, how do I do it? So I know that I can get a top out of 150 centimeters wide fabric if it's a meter. So I know that I can fold the side of the material over and then cut out the sort of front bodice. Do the same with the other side of the material to get the back bodice, and then the sleeves and the neckband normally come out of that quite easily. So I don't have to worry about laying my pieces out all at the same time before I cut out. So I'd first of all, when I'm doing a stripy fabric, fold that edge piece over in line with the grain line of the fabric so that I've got enough to get the pattern piece into. Then what I'll do is I'll try and match up the stripes. So I'll look on the edge of the fabric and make sure that that stripe is aligned all the way over to where I folded it over, and I'll pop some pins at the edge of the fabric so those lines all line up all the way along, so that you haven't got a skew whiff piece once you cut it out and opened it, if that makes sense. So that then I can get my pattern piece on there, place the pattern piece onto the stripe. So what I'll do is I'll align the bottom of the side seam with a particular position in the stripe, say the top of a white stripe for instance, and I'll make a sort of mental note of that, and I might make a little mark on the paper pattern so I know where that stripe has started, because you want the back to match the front of the garment. You then go to the other side of the fabric and fold a piece over in line with the grain line, do the same, pin all your stripes out nice so that the two sides of the garment, they're going to be sort of in line and straight across the front. So once you've folded that over, you need to make sure the bottom of your side seam is starting at the same stripe as you cut out your front. You can get your front piece and just match that along just to make sure that you are in the same position, and then you can cut that out, and I find that normally works. If you are finding it more difficult, what you can do is you can trace out your half pattern piece, which is supposed to be cut out on the fold, and make a double so that you've got your whole piece all in one, so that you don't have to cut it out on the fold, and then you can fiddle around with it on the actual fabric itself. So if you've got your two bottom hems of your top, you can make sure that they're on the same stripe, on the same position, so that it's nice and straight, and the same with the back again. Don't be afraid to mark a pencil line where your stripes are on the pattern pieces, your paper pattern pieces, and just to make sure everything matches. You may, if you're cutting out sleeves for instance, if you've got your sleeve piece, what you could do is if you cut one piece out so that it's nice and straight, I'd use the bottom of the cuff, bottom of the sleeve to go align with one of the stripes, cut out one piece, and then use that sleeve as a template to cut out your second sleeve, so that you know that your stripes are perfectly aligned with each other, left compared to right. I do have a video where I made my Frankie t-shirt, which isn't in a striped fabric, but that at least gives you an idea of how generally I cut out a t-shirt, and I'll pop that video in the description bar down below. So there we go, hope that's helpful, Elaine. So lastly, I have my confessions. Been a bit naughty. Now, I couldn't resist because Rainbow Fabrics had 80% off sale, so it'd be rude not to. And I haven't bought any fabric for ages, so I thought, yes, I'm just going to treat myself. First of all, look at that, how unusual. So this is a jersey, but it's a viscose jersey, so it's nice and drapey. And I thought that this would make a lovely sort of wrap dress. I've got a few wrap dress patterns that I've already bought that I can make this into. I have, I think it's the Meredith dress from Sew Over It, and also the cashmere wrap jersey dress as well, but I can't think that's what that's called off the top of my head. But I just thought that print was really unusual. I just thought I had to have it. I think I might have got the last piece though, because shortly after, when I had another look, because I obviously, when I've bought loads of fabrics, I have to look in case I missed any. It had gone. And there were a few other jerseys that I missed out on because I was a little bit slow purchasing. So the sale started on the Friday at 6, and I think I didn't get on till about 7 or 8 o'clock, so I think that's why I missed out on a couple of the jerseys. But I did get some other bits and bobs. So I bought some really gorgeous, this is it's like a charcoal black, and it's a viscose linen, and it's got a beautiful drape. It's got a lovely quality weave, so I'm really pleased about that. And it might look boring, but actually that'll be really useful in my stash to make into some of the sort of staple items in my wardrobe, like a pair of trousers or a skirt or something. So I thought that's very useful to have. I picked up this other viscose. This is like a viscose crepe, and it is a floral. I just thought that might be quite nice as a floaty little skirt. So I did have the Alba skirt in mind from Sew Over It when I was looking at this fabric. And I also picked up another black fabric, but look at those hearts, aren't they pretty? So this is another viscose fabric. This is just a standard medium weight viscose with the hearts on, with black and white print. I was actually thinking about doing a Skye dress with this as well, but I'm not 100% sure. We shall see. It'll be a dress anyway, I think. I just think those hearts are really pretty. And last but not least, I've got another viscose linen, and look at that red. Absolutely love that red, and it's a beautiful quality viscose linen. It's got a lovely weave, and again that'll make a nice staple in my wardrobe, like a pair of trousers or a skirt. So I had to buy those. And it would be rude not to, since it was 80% off. And they do a lot of dead stock fabrics, so you get really nice quality for very little money. I couldn't believe how the price on some of these. So this one was £5 a metre, so I got a few metres of this one. The linens were about £6, I think, and the other two were less than £5 a metre, which is absolutely brilliant. So I've had a gorgeous little gift in the post from Eva from the Cocoa and Flora podcast, and she has sent us the most gorgeous hats. And they're Apple for the Teacher pattern by Vicky Bird. I'll just hold up one so it's easier for me to show you. But this is a cutest little hat, and it looks like a little apple with a leaf and a stalk on the top. That is so gorgeous. Thank you so much, Eva. That is absolutely beautiful. So she sent us two sizes, one that's the smaller size and one that's a larger size, just in case we got a baby with a bigger head. And I'm hoping that the baby does not take after me, because I have the hugest head in the world. Hopefully it takes after Adam. But we've got two sizes there. Thank you, Eva. And also she sent us some beautiful little washing bags. So there's a little drawstring bag there and a laundry bag to put all the little baby socks in, because baby socks are just going to get everywhere, aren't they? So that'll be really handy. And it's got this cute little fabric. I think is it Miffy? I'm not quite sure of the character, but isn't that beautiful? That's a lovely print. I love it. Thank you, Eva. That was ever so kind of you. Eva's just got out a podcast, and she hadn't brought one out for ages, but there are lots of socks on it. If you're interested in seeing Eve's socks, I'll pop a link to her latest episode as well, so do go over and check her out. So I think that's all for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you'd like to see more, and I shall see you in the next episode. Bye!